Okay, so I just got done reading a Huffington Post article, and the title caught my attention because I was like, whoa, what's that about? It said the uncomfortable truth that a lot of married couples aren't willing to admit. So it was like the little link for it or whatever. So I clicked on it, like, oh, what is it? And when I clicked on it, it was basically an article highlighting that there is a loneliness epidemic. And she went on a step further to say that being in a long term relationship or being married doesn't seem to be a solution because it seems like married couples are experiencing loneliness just as much, if not more, as single people. At this point, I'm kind of like, oh, I'm married, by the way. So I'm stopped and I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, does my husband feel lonely in our relationship? So I'm like asking him, like, hey, like, there's this article, like, how do you feel about this? What are your thoughts? Then I went to my dad. He and my mom have been married for like, I don't know why it was a male focused thing, but I talked to my husband. I guess my next step was to talk to my dad, and he and my mom have been married for like 40 years. So I was like, hey, like, do you guys ever feel this way? And my dad had this very like sobering response. And he went on to say that I think anyone can experience loneliness at some point. And he didn't really like elaborate like a whole lot, but he was just saying it's not so crazy to think that if you're married, especially long enough, that you're going to have these different phases and experiences in your relationship. To circle back to my conversation with my husband, at least from where I was coming from, he was kind of like, oh, like he kind of like played with the idea of it, but it didn't really resonate with him in like a super significant way. For me, I think one of the biggest, most significant changes that I've had in my life is that I've had two kids in the last 4 years. And on top of that, the lifestyles of most of my really good friends have changed significantly. So I think the way I would describe it is sometimes I feel like I have all these people that I know and love in my life, but our lifestyles are so radically different, especially because in that time, I also moved to the East Coast from Texas. So it was like this very big season of changes. Like we went through COVID, like we had a quarantine, then I got pregnant, I had my kids, and then I moved back. So it was just all this change like that happened in like one time period. And I think that sometimes change can have built in loneliness that comes with it, right? The next part, though, that I thought was really interesting was okay, you have this article and we're talking about this loneliness epidemic. So it's like, what are the fixes, right? Like, what can we do so that we can find more solutions to be able to navigate this thing that it seems like a lot of people are dealing with, struggling with. And I wanted to point out that on my website, I have a book on affirmations, and it's called 52 Affirmations to Build a Life You Love. Speak those things. But the set of affirmations that gets the most traffic to this day on my website is affirmations for loneliness. And that always like breaks my heart a little bit because it's something that people, it's kind of like encouraging actually because it suggests that people are trying to find a way to navigate through it and work through it. But it also makes me kind of sad because I'm like, dang, this really is something that seems like all over the world people are struggling with, right? But to go back to what I was going to say, the upside of it all, right, is that she said that sometimes people discount how our lifestyle and our structure can increase this sense of loneliness, right? So, to make my life easier, there are a lot of things that I've done that potentially could limit or reduce like human interaction and human experiences. So, I'll give you an example. I hate going to the grocery store with my kids. It's just anxiety inducing from start to finish for me. And they, for the most part, are really well behaved, but I know that we're going to hit a pocket where my 4-year-old's going to want something and the baby's going to be tired of being there. So to alleviate that, I started doing curbside. But one of her biggest points that she said was don't overlook or minimize those experiences where you can have those recurring social interactions. So, say for instance, you're going to pick up your kids from school. If you really like the person that you see at the counter or the desk or whatever, that is a form of not friendship, but like she called it, oh, she was like just regular acquaintances. She was like, you have regular acquaintances. They're not friends. You're not technically doing life together, but you do see each other really regularly. You know what you have going on in each other's lives, and you're able to connect with each other in a way that feels like a friendship and can be very emotionally fulfilling for yourself. It's like our church. there are people that I look forward to seeing every week. It's like a highlight of my week when I see them because we get to catch up and like see how they're doing, but we're not doing life with them, if that makes sense. And not because we couldn't, we just aren't, because I think a lot of people do feel the pressure of already trying to see family and already trying to see friends that they do have. And then there's the pressure on top of that of like work responsibilities and familiar responsibilities and just trying to figure out how to balance all these different things. And this video is getting long, but I just wanted to say that if you have put some things in place to maybe try to like make life more convenient for yourself, don't discount the fact that maybe if you were going to the grocery store, even if it's like sometimes I'll say not for this reason, but it is beneficial. Like my little girl loves going to the grocery store. I just don't need to do the majority of the groceries with her. It just doesn't make sense to me. So, for instance, I might do a curbside order, but I'll run inside to get her like a little treat. We always get the same lady at checkout, and she always has the same cute little interaction with her. And it's a highlight for me, it's a highlight for her, and it's a highlight for my kid. So I say that to say that don't discount one, being more intentional. Like me and one of my girlfriends, like I was like, we're just gonna have to schedule stuff. I said, because this just isn't going to happen organically. Like we're just too busy. And this is something that like I think is going to work for you. So I'm going to be more intentional about it. Or like she said, those acquaintances, like go out of your way to have those like casual social interactions and see if it helps fill your cup. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up. Oh, there's one last thing. I also went, I know I'm going all over the place, but I went on Reddit because I was like, is how much of a thing is this? And there was post after post, like this poor woman, she had like said, like, it may have been a guy actually, and he was saying, like, I'm just so terribly lonely in my relationship and I don't want to cheat on my spouse. What do I do? And there, I mean, I had to stop scrolling. There were so many comments, and people were like, I know exactly how you feel. I'm so lonely in my marriage. But y'all, they were like, we've been married for 15 years, 25 years, 40 years, 35 years, and I've never felt more lonely in my marriage. So I say that to say, I don't think that this is something that should be taken lightly. I don't think that this is something should be overlooked. I think that intentionality is at the core of any relationship worth having. And I think that for me, at least, my marriage is the most important relationship in my life, second to my relationship with God. So, acquaintances, don't discount them. Intentionality when it comes to planning time with anybody that you love. It may not happen organically. You got to go out of your way. And don't forget, as soon as you develop a habit, it feels normal and it feels second nature. So get those things going and see if it, works in terms of feeling less lonely. Anyway, I want to send some love your way if you are struggling with loneliness. I don't want to make light of that. And thanks so much for watching. Bye.